Hey guys, it's me, Poppy Brain here, and today we're going to be reading from Classic Spooky Stories. We are going to be reading, hold on. Where did we leave off? Okay. We're going to be reading Freaky Friends. Having an old witch as her next door neighbor was the last thing that Victoria Vampire wanted. No sooner had Winnie moved in, complete with her broomstick, cauldron, pointed hat, and all manner of pots and potions, then weird things began to happen. Whenever Winnie stirred up a magical brew indoors, a mass of stars and sparks would fly out of the chimney of her tumble-down old cottage like a fantastic fireworks show. They whizzed safely beyond her own little cottage garden and landed in the grounds of Victoria's dark and spooky house instead. Victoria's clean washing was soon spotted with sooty marks, and 2 big holes were burned in her best black cloak. Then there was the smell, or more precisely, the terrible stench. Whatever was bubbling away in Winnie's cauldron, it was definitely not leek and potato soup. The awful aroma wafted across into the dark turrets of Victoria's home. In no time, it had disturbed Victoria's precious colony of bats that lived in the attic. They poured like black treacles out of a small skylight and fluttered away to hide in a dark, distant cave. As if losing her pets wasn't bad enough, Victoria had to keep every door and window tightly closed against the stink. It was enough to make her flash her fangs in anger. But there was way worse to come. Winnie's 2 cats, scratched and sniffed, were mouse mad. They chased them nonstop. So one day, when they spotted some by Victoria's woodshed, the mean-eyed cat set off in hot pursuit. The trouble was that Victoria had just entered the shed to fetch some logs for her fire. Now, being a vampire, she didn't like going out in daylight, and as usual, she was wearing her dark sunglasses so that she didn't see Scratch and Sniff slink into the shed. She just felt the sting of their claws as she tripped over them, and they lashed out at her legs. Victoria let out a blood-curdling scream. The startled cat screeched, "Yow!" Wood went flying, and so did Victoria. She crashed into the door, bumping her head and breaking an arm off her precious sunglasses. Meanwhile, the cats sulkily slipped away, having lost the mice who had taken advantage of all the commotion and disappeared. Victoria tried to balance her broken sunglasses back on her nose. Then she felt inside her mouth and winced. She had broken one of her fine fangs when she fell over. That was the last straw. "That does it," she hissed. "I'm going to have a not-so-neighborly word with that rotten witch." Victoria marched straight out of her own gate, up the front path to Winnie's cottage, and thumped on the door. But Winnie was in the backyard, practicing some spelling. She was concentrating so hard that she did not hear the visiting vampire. Winnie waved her wand at a carpet beater lying on the lawn. Nearby, a large dusty rug hung on the clothesline. "Eye of new and lizard of spleen, carpet beater start to clean," she chanted. "There you are," cried Victoria, stomping around the side of the garage. "I've got a bone to pick with you." "Oh, good. Come inside, then. I'm hungry, too," said Winnie, smiling innocently at her. Victoria was about to set Winnie straight and give her a piece of her mind when suddenly she stopped dead in her tracks. Something was floating towards her. It was a carpet beater. Instead of giving the rug a good dusting, it switched and wiped at Victoria. "Ah! Ooh! Help!" she wailed, as the carpet beater chased her out of Winnie's garden and all the way home. There she sat and sulked until the moon rose. Enough is enough, she thought. It's time I taught that tiresome witch a lesson. She stomped out into the darkness and was soon hard at work in Winnie's garden, pulling up all the magic plants and trampling on the special herb patch. Then she spied Scratch and Sniff curled up, fast asleep, in a basket by an open window. Reaching with both hands, she caught a hold of their long whiskers and pulled with all her might. Ping, ping, ping! The furious cats howled in pain and leapt in the air. But using some special vampire magic of her own, Victoria turned herself into a bat and took off into the night. But she hadn't flown far when suddenly something whizzed past her like a rocket. It was Winnie on her broomstick. Caught in its slipstream, Victoria was tossed about like a leaf in a storm. She had just made a bumpy landing on Winnie's lawn when the witch swooped down and landed right on top of her. A scratch prepared to pounce. Thinking that it might make a tasty alternative to mouse, Victoria changed back with a flash. But she was bruised and breathless. "Oh, my back," Victoria groaned. "Dearie me," wailed the witch. "It's all my fault. I had no idea it was you. Here, please, let me help." Victoria was too weary to argue, and help Winnie certainly did. Over the next few days, nothing was too much trouble for her. She insisted that Victoria rest at home in bed while she cooked a surprisingly tasty beet soup. It was such a delicious deep red color that Victoria simply had to have some. "It would have been better if those darn cats hadn't dug up my herbs, mind you," said Winnie. While Victoria guiltily enjoyed another bowlful, Winnie searched her spell book. "Ah, I knew it. It was here somewhere," she said. Winnie waved her wand and chanted something about taking care of crannies. Then in a flash, Victoria's long, sharp teeth were perfect again. "Thanks very much," she joked. Further spells soon repaired the holes in Victoria's cloak, cleaned up her washing, and brought her bats back to the loft. Another made Winnie's broom sweep up the woodshed. Scratch and Sniff eagerly caught every mouse in her house, which made up a bit for losing their whiskers. Victoria felt ashamed for trying to teach the kind witch a lesson. "I feel so much better," smiled Victoria, getting up at last. "You're a wonder, Winnie." "Nonsense. Nothing like a spell in bed," the witch replied modestly as she gave her newfound friend a hug. The end.